So, welcome here. We are live with the Course in Miracles, and the welcome that we give is to what is true in ourselves. So, I'm greeting literally the Christ within myself that I recognize and see as the Christ that you are. And so, it is a welcome of remembering together in this one mind what we are as Christ in the mind of God, and that we are as Christ perfect, whole, and healed, and that remembrance of Christ am I, or Christ within, is the gift that we give to ourselves. That is the Christ celebration of His birth for this so-called time period called Christmas. Right? And we all know that it is about something that must go beyond limitations of thoughts. We know it is about really coming to a recognition of what we are in truth and how we were created and have remained. And of this perfection, of course, we cannot speak. And in that stillness of the experience, in that joining of mind that happens right now, while you open up this channel and listen to that voice, your own voice from heaven, that speaks of however it is presented in the Course in Miracles in Christian vernacular. But truly it is a universal language, and it is the universal language of unlimited thought. It is the universal language of peace without opposite, of that peace that is always within us, no matter in which situations we have defined ourselves or define ourselves right this moment. But if you have a moment to relax, if you have a moment to just be still and listen to the truth within yourself, listen to that voice that speaks of your homecoming, that speaks of your awakening, then you also know that you have nothing else to do. You might call it, well, it is lockdown situation everywhere and anywhere, but it really has nothing to do with that. The lockdown is just the idea of kind of almost being forced to take some time off and to have some quiet time and to have a moment of peace. But this is what we're talking about, a recognition of self that we always are and cannot not be, because it is a gift of God in creation itself. And that is also where we are in this sequence of the lessons at the end of this year. And probably to this series, we are here in the 51st episode, and I might come to an end by the end of the year. I already wanted to end this series, and after half the year, so in middle of the summer, and somehow it was kind of, well, the title Perfectly Safe Forever, and it was still also in the context of lockdown and COVID-19 idea and situation that I was directed to continue with this title. And it is amazing how we were guided to browse through this not just work given to us called the Course in Miracles, but really of Christ mind and the voice that speaks for Christ, that speaks for God within ourselves. And to continue listen to that, and to continue to ask for guidance, and to continue to ask for help. And nothing has really changed to that, no matter if the title will change or not, or maybe this is our last our last class and session together. And it is always, this is the day, isn't it? this is the day, and it is a perfect offer, and it is so complete, and it is such a whole opportunity to experience myself through forgiveness and love and come to a happiness that has been overlooked or even rejected. And so if we're talking of true happiness, of course, we're talking about touching and connecting to what I called at the beginning, Christ within. And so these lessons at the end of the year, under that auspices of the light of Christmas, is of course about the discovery and the bringing forth and the recognition and the acknowledgement that Christ within is real for me, is real for us. And to go further in that idea, we have to say, is the only reality that we can demonstrate within our own thought forms. And there isn't really any proof on the perceptual ego level, but there's proof. You are the proof, I'm the proof of living in that experience. And what living in the experience means is how he calls it in this lesson that I use also as the lesson of the day, starting from 1st of January and ending on the 365th day, that he calls in the lesson 354 purpose, true purpose. And that true purpose has nothing to do with what we are doing in the world as human beings, but it has everything to do how we think about what we are doing in the world and how we are consequently doing it. So that how comes from our basis and basic thought forms. It's the attitude that determines how we arrive or relate first with each other and then arrive in a holy instant at an experience that unifies our minds completely. And in that unification, we recognize that there is only God, that there is love real as not a concept, but a true presence within mind, heart, spirit, soul. However you want to say that, that real experience is a recognition of perfect thought, of the thought that is forever and forever creative. You have been created by that thought. It is the thought of God. And because you have been created as that, you are that. And therefore, it is the only thing capitalized that you can give, that we can share. And so we learn through this mind training program of A Course in Miracles how senseless it becomes to go back to the past and kind of wallow, swim in any emotions or emotional experiences that we have gone through. All we do is when we go to the past is we realize that it is over, that it has changed in our mind, and that seeing the past is never in connection with the solution. But here's the thing. There isn't really any solution accepted in the mind unless the mind understands. That's exactly how the ego operates, this reference constantly to the past, and release it, which means letting it go. If you had a tough time in the past with family or in your upbringing, then that forgiveness, that act of forgiveness, will bring you to just let it go and no longer chew on that old bone that makes you unhappy or made you unhappy. And so that brings us further to a new quest of, okay, what is it what I can experience and share now? And that's where we arrive at certainty of true purpose, because it's the purpose for awakening, the purpose for demonstrating healing of the mind, the purpose that serves the recognition of singularity, finding, discovering that your mind is singular. And that purpose, to accept that purpose, is also automatically the acceptance of who I am in truth. So of course we are saying then the words, I'm the Holy Son of God, or you might say I'm the Holy Daughter of God. But that Holy Son of God, beyond any masculine or feminine meaning, is Christ, right? So we are arriving at Christ, Christ that goes beyond perceptual differences. And this is what we are sharing now, and not just sharing, but bringing to a unified experience in these last lessons of the workbook of this year. This is what the Course in Miracles will show us, will always offer us. And it is that you are not alone, and that you have gifts received, and therefore you have gifts to give. And those gifts can only represent the truth in which you were created, that has remained true throughout all turmoil, all fighting, all being in an attack mode against yourself. And if you have learned anything with this course or any other program, it will be that it is your defenselessness and your willingness to no longer attack your own thought forms, which means any part of this world, because any part of this world reflects yourself, reflects a thought about yourself. And being willing to no longer attack myself opens up, of course, that source of peace of mind, and opens up that connection with Christ within. And that connection with Christ within is our connection, our communication between brothers, as we call each other, and it is also the connection that we have with Him outside of time and space. So with Him, with Jesus Christ, with Him, with God, with Him, with the Holy Spirit, with Him that is whole mind, no longer imprisoned through or in any idea of limitation, if it is the body or if it is any aspect of this world, not being limited by any of these thought forms, is your declaration of freedom. And in this lesson 354, Jesus expresses it, that He stands with you. We are standing together. And it is an expression that you also make now with your relationship connections, right? That you declare to your brother, to your family, to your loved ones, and so also to your enemies. Because an enemy isn't really an enemy. It is an opportunity to come to a unified experience and finding and recognizing Christ within. So we stand together, Christ and I. And you can just think that or repeat it slowly with me. We stand together, Christ and I, in peace and in certainty of purpose. We stand together, brother. Christ and I, you and Christ, me and Christ. We stand together in peace, and we stand together in certainty of purpose. And in him is his creation, as he is in me. And you can already think of that light of Christ within you, that is he in you, how you experience him in yourself. And it is him in him, it is you in him, and in our Creator himself. There is not really any order of difficulty. There's no difference whatsoever. We are talking here about a thinking, an identity capitalized, that recognizes oneself as being all in all, as being one with his Creator, with God himself. And in the few sentences of the text of this prayer, we are in prayer lessons. It is given us, and also take it completely personal, coming from the source, from the heart of your being. My oneness with the Christ. And you want to feel that, your oneness with the Christ. My oneness with the Christ establishes me as your Son, as the Son of God, beyond the reach of time and wholly free of every law but yours. Every law but God's law was a self-made law that we called the laws of the world, or we imprisoned ourselves with laws that we imposed upon ourselves, what our duties and responsibilities in the world are, what we would need to accomplish as human beings. But we are only under the laws of God, and the laws of God are different, because this is about accepting truth. These are about accepting peace, happiness, joy, this oneness with him. It is beyond the reach of time. It is found in the eternal mind that you are. And I have no self except the Christ in me. And that is an acceptance that the self with which you were identified since beginning of time, that you called yourself as a body, as a personality, as a fragment and part of the world you saw, doesn't exist, isn't really there. It was just projected there. It was just thought and believed to be there. But I have no self except the Christ in me, and I have no purpose but his own. And that purpose of Christ is, of course, to just shine his light and remind us here within the dream that we are not dead, but we are that light, that we are not just celebrating during Christmas hours and Christmas days, but throughout all time. Because if you have already undergone an experience, as I have, of singularity, then you're also aware that this peace, light, presence of God is always there, is present now in you. And he is like his Father. Christ, the Son of God, is like his Father. And thus must I be one with you as well as him. For who is Christ except your Son, as you created him? And what am I except the Christ in me? Let's do those questions again. Who is Christ except your Son, Father, as you created him? And what am I except the Christ in me? So here's the directive given to look within and to find within, beyond conceptual thoughts, when past is over, when past is recognized that it isn't there, that it cannot harm you anymore, that it cannot affect you anymore. And you realize that this is what you are. You are exactly what Christ is in you. You are the perfect creation of God Himself. And in the introduction to this 10-day sequence of 351 to 360, in these words of what am I, he calls it in the definition what we are, and he defines it in the way by saying that we are the bringers of salvation. You are, I am the bringer of salvation. And then he also says, we are the holy messengers of God. You are, I am the holy messenger of God. And that is exactly what is expressed there. If you are the holy messenger of God, then that's what your purpose is. That's what your job is to bring the message of God. Where can you realize what the message of God is? You cannot find it outside yourself. You can only find it within the heart of hearts, the peace and presence that you feel when you look within. And there it is. And that is how we bring the message that Jesus Christ has brought to us 2,000 years. And every awakened whole mind in these 2,000 years and beyond, before Jesus Christ even, has already brought to the world, becomes a demonstration of I'm not a body, I'm free, I'm still as God created me. This, using this sentence of A Course in Miracles, is really the conclusion of anything that we could express what we are not in any limitation, as any limited thought. And here in the introduction, he expresses it. We are the holy messengers of God who speak for him and carrying his word to everyone whom he has sent to us. Who is everybody who has been sent to you? Everyone who shows up in your mind. There's not there's no secret to that. Whoever shows up in your mind has been sent to you and is offering you the opportunity to speak for him, speak for Christ, speak for God, speak the message that we do not need to stay in any suffering, in any misinterpretation, in any limited thought form. And we carry his word to everyone. We carry it to everyone because everyone is myself. Everyone is you. And how we do that is completely up to us. You can extend the thought. You don't even need to use a word. You can simply laugh. You can be joyful. You can dance and sing. You can express it in a trillion of expressions. But it will need to come from that what is the source of yourself, from within yourself. If it is supposed to represent his message. Let's continue. So, whom he has sent to us, we learn that his word, capitalized, that it is written in our hearts. And that's a beautiful expression, how this creative thought within ourselves is really written in our hearts. That means simply it is there. And thus our minds are changed about the aim for which we came and which we seek to serve. Our minds are changed. Thank you. And we have changed our minds about the aim, about where we want to go, what we are, where we proceed, where we want to be. So we bring glad tidings to the Son of God. And this Christmas is the time in which he brings us glad tidings, and now we are included. Can you see that? You are a bringer of the glad tidings. We bring glad tidings, and we bring glad tidings to the Son of God, who thought he suffered. Everyone in your mind, everybody showed up in order to receive those glad tidings. The truth, wants to hear the truth, wants to feel you as that love and joy. Now is he redeemed. So it didn't take time. It didn't take any doing and effort. This is the answer. This is the message. You are redeemed. You are free, brother. We are free. And so he sees the gate of heaven stand open before him. He will enter in and disappear into the heart of God. And you might say, yeah, that sounds familiar. I think I had such a moment. I had such an experience. And you wouldn't even be able to hear that except that you have had such an experience. That's true. Now, keep on sharing it. Keep on keeping it alive for you. Keep on bringing it to where it belongs, in the present moment, always now, never in the future. And also then realizing my remembrance, what experience of awakening I had in the past, I'm only remembering it now in this very moment. To leave it in the past is completely meaningless. The past is over. So Christ's resurrection, Christ's birth, is only realized and experienced in the very moment. And that is Merry Christmas. That is your expression of joy to all nations, to all your mind, to all your associations who come to join you, who come to celebrate with you, because we're celebrating something that is not of this world. We celebrate the joy and peace and love in which we were created and have remained. And that makes us automatically, how he expressed it in the second paragraph, that we are the bringers of salvation. You are the bringer of salvation. Right? That is really what also my name in Sanskrit means, Devavan, the bringer of salvation, of the light of heaven. That is your meaning of your name also, in truth. No matter what language, we find a language, we can make up a language. He continues when he says, we are the bringers of salvation. We accept our part as saviors of the world. And why are we supposed to accept our part as saviors of the world? The master teacher of A Course in Miracles would simply say, because you are the maker of the world. You have made up the world, and therefore it is your responsibility, your job, to save the world. It's only in your mind. There are no other minds. Thank you. This is very clear. This is very simple. So we accept our part as saviors of the world, which through our joint forgiveness, here you have it, is redeemed. The world is redeemed. Everyone in your mind is redeemed, becomes free right now. And this, our gift, is therefore given us. We look on everyone as brothers. See, here are actions described. Those actions kind of define or describe the action of bringing salvation to the world, redemption, right? We look on everyone as brother, secondly, and we perceive all things as kindly and as good. We can do that. That's not difficult, right? We can look on everyone, no matter if it is an animal, a rock, or a human being, no matter if it is a friend, a loved one, or an enemy, we can look on everyone as brother. We are companions going home as one mind. And we perceive all things as kindly and as good. We want to see everything as an expression of love. That is what a miracle is, an expression of love. But it is our responsibility to see it that way, to see it all things as kindly and as good, which means there is no evil out there, there's no devil out there, there's no opposite to God out there, there is not a real ego there, there is no enemy that can attack you. Everything is good. Everything works for you. Everything is supportive to your homecoming. Third, and we do not seek a function that is past the gate of heaven. So we do not seek a function that leaves us on the timeline. We do not seek a function that is embedded within the ego thought system, that is part of this world in its impermanence. Knowledge will return when we have done our part. See, that's where we arrive. Knowledge. It's not something we can learn. It's not something that we can study. It's not something that we can, by doing, claim or arrive at. Knowledge is given us, is what we are when we recognize our whole one self. Knowledge is communication with God. We are concerned only with giving welcome to the truth. That's what we just said. So those are those actions of how you bring salvation to yourself, to the world as you made it up. Those are the actions of your mind, how you experience being redeemed right this very moment, and bringing that message of your own redemption into every corner of your mind, which is every corner of the world. How does that feel? And you can already sense that there isn't really any doing involved. It is an abiding in that creative life and light that we are. It's an abiding in Christ consciousness and letting that Christ come forth. It is Christ that represents the true Son of God, who we are. That is really the gift that I want to give you for Christmas. That is the gift that I am accepting and receiving myself right this very moment. That is what comes from above. That is the constant gifts that are showering on us from out of time. This is what we are supposed to share, to remember for all within our own mind. And in order to finish that up, I'm using as one of my favorite chapters in the beginning sections of the textbook of the Course in Miracles. It is chapter 11, God or the Ego. And in the fourth section, that is called the inheritance of God's Son, where he says, he talks first about the glory, that glory is your inheritance that is given you by your Creator, and that you might extend it. And he adds then on, yet if you hate part of yourself, all your understanding is lost, because you are looking on what God created as yourself without love. So this is what we just reviewed, that we have to come from the true source. There is no other way from where we could come from. We cannot come from anything on the timeline, anything accumulated within conceptual mind. And coming from creative source will open up that extension of the love light source coming from peace of mind, from Christ within. And he gives us it's in the fifth paragraph then, the kind of challenging us how we relate with each other as brother in time space. And he says there right away, if your brothers are part of you and you blame them for your deprivation, right? If you still have some blame or complaint or attack thought or needing to get even, which are forms of vengeance in your mind, and you blame them for your deprivation, right, for our own deprivation, then you're blaming yourself, right? Of course, then you're in hell, right? You're lost. And you cannot see that Christ is really there in you. And you cannot blame yourself without blaming them, your brothers. And that is why blame must be undone, not seen elsewhere. It must be undone. That means it is always up to me to accept that one-man atonement for myself, to accept that correction of how the ego thought form was exchanged or brought up the trouble, right? Brought up that separation experience, yeah? But it isn't in anybody else, anyone else but myself. Not seen elsewhere. So lay it to yourself, and you cannot know yourself, for only the ego blames at all. Self-blame is therefore ego identification, and as much an ego defense as blaming others. Listen, you cannot enter God's presence if you attack his Son. Let's remind ourselves for all times on that. And I mentioned that before. If we have practiced or learned anything through this course or any program, it would be to not attack ourselves. You cannot enter God's presence if you attack his Son. When his Son lifts his voice in praise of his Creator, he will hear the voice for his Father. Yet the Creator cannot be praised without his Son, for their glory is shared and they are glorified together. So if you still leave the blame out there, right, and you project it onto your brother, then also that representation of the Christ that you call Jesus Christ is reduced to just a historical figure who did healings and teachings in his time 2000 years ago, and therefore you could only relate to him as relating to an idol, to thoughts of idolization. And this is really the step that we have stepped over that, right? The Course in Miracles was given us in order to overcome that limitation. And see, with the whole class we spent in that recognition and acceptance and acknowledging the Christ within. So we are not talking about a Jesus Christ having expressed that and experienced that for himself 2000 years ago. We are talking that all time is going on all the time, and that in that awareness of Jesus Christ's work 2000 years ago, we are now entering in and joining in that same redemption, in that same experience of the awakening of the mind. And he continues here in chapter 11 in this first section that Christ is at God's altar, waiting to welcome his Son, but come wholly without condemnation. For otherwise you will believe that the door is barred and you cannot enter. The door is not barred, and it is impossible that you cannot enter the place where God would have you be. See, this is the truth. But love yourself with the love of Christ, for so does your Father love you. And we always should acknowledge that no matter what you think you did, no matter what you think has been done to you, your Creator God in heaven loves you forever and forever. That's all he can. That's all he is. And therefore, you're also only that. You can refuse to enter, but you cannot bar the door that Christ holds open. Christ holds that door open. So come unto me, Jesus is speaking. Come unto me who hold it open for you. For while I live it, for while I live, it cannot be shut, and I live forever. God is my life and yours, and nothing is denied by God to his Son. What an expression. What a comforting message, isn't it? Jesus Christ lives forever and he holds the door open whenever you are ready to enter in, whenever you have no use anymore of any condemnation, of any judgment, of any fear, of any attack thought, of any projection within the ego thought forms, because it's already guaranteed that you will join him. You already have joined him. So why not go all the way and acknowledge that truth for yourself? And at God's altar, Christ waits for the restoration of himself in you. God knows his Son as wholly blameless as himself, and he is approached through the appreciation of his Son. Christ waits for your acceptance of him as yourself. Here we have it. Christ waits for the acceptance of him as yourself, and of his wholeness as yours. For Christ is the Son of God, who lives in his Creator and shines with his glory. Christ is the extension of the love and the loveliness of God, as perfect as his Creator and at peace with him. Amen, isn't it? Well, there's one more paragraph. Let's finish it up. Blessed is the Son of God, whose radiance is of his Father, and whose glory he wills to share as his Father shares it with him. There is no condemnation in the Son, for there is no condemnation in the Father. Sharing the perfect love of the Father, the Son must share what belongs to him, for otherwise he will not know the Father or the Son. Peace be unto you, who rest in God, and in whom the whole sonship rests. Amen. These wonderful words given us from Jesus Christ, from the Christ mind within yourself, are from this incredible gift that we have received and call A Course in Miracles. And if you're new to the Course, just get the book. It is written in words that you can read, that you can listen to, and finally see and realize a thought, eternal thought, Christ thought, light thought within your own heart, within your own mind, within your own soul. Blessed are you who are the Son of God, whose radiance is of our Father in heaven, and whose glory you will to share as your Father in heaven shares it with you, with me, with all of us. With this, my brothers, I will leave it. And this is my Christmas gift. These are my blessings I want to share with you for this Christmas time, and so for all times. And it is a sharing of immense gratitude that overwhelms me and quiets my mind. Let all words be still and just extend that peace and love and light, and that without limit, without end. And as we proceed towards the end of this year, we will just stay and remain in that experience and take every idea of time as a one day, a one instant, a moment of joining, a moment of sharing, and leave it with this extension, giving, action of pure thought, whole thought into eternity. It is really eternity revealing eternity in us to eternity. Wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I have nothing to add to it except a few sounds coming here from this song that comes from one of our brothers, and just remembering what has been given us, isn't it? Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining. I love you.